zero deaths of anybody taking vitamin A, zero deaths in vitamin C, zero deaths in vitamin E, and zero deaths across the board of all of the vitamins, and even zero deaths for people taking mineral supplements. So that's a major prestigious body who are coming out and saying, well, hang on a second, we can't find the dead bodies. What are you talking about?
I think I read that, that report that the people were already dying anyway. All right. Well, Professor Jackson also said that the best evidence we have today is a review of over 60 randomized trials in almost, was it 500,000 people?
Quarter of a million,
I mean. And this study, so that's about 250,000 people. And the study shows that these people who take vitamins have on an increased risk of death compared to those who don't. What evidence was he referring to?
Well, that was directly referring to the Cochrane report, I believe, because the Cochrane report was 67 studies. And again,
only 9%.
It was only 9% of the available data, and within that 9%, many of those studies were not proper scientific studies, and they were done on people who were already terminally ill. So that has nothing to do with the general population, because sometimes, this is the problem when people turn to supplements too late. It's almost too late for them, and you can't blame the supplements for them dying. They're already terminally ill. So, one of the things I'd like to say about scientific studies is we have to put it in the context of where we're at today, because so many of us think in terms of the context of the pharmaceutical companies of the past and where we've come from, rather than where we're at today. And in 2005, you had one of the most prestigious scientific magazines coming out called Nature magazine, who they had done a survey of scientific practices and studies to find out what was actually going on. They found that 20% of the scientists that they surveyed had admitted to changing the methodology or the design or the results of the study due to pressure from the pharmaceutical companies that were paying for the study. So the actual number of scientists that were surveyed was 3,247. So if you take that percentage, 20% admitting basically scientific fraud, now they're going to lose their jobs for admitting that, presumably. So you'd have to reasonably assume that there might be many other scientists out there who are doing the same thing but are not speaking out because they don't want to lose their jobs. So even at 20%, you could say that of all of the scientific studies that are done, more than 20% are fraudulent. So this is where the media becomes very irresponsible, and I think, personally, I think there should be regulations around it, that when you report a scientific study, you must name the study, you must name who's taken it, you must name what pharmaceutical boards support them and pay for them, and you must name the companies that are actually funding it. Not only the companies that are funding it, but even, like, for instance, when you get a charity or a body that's funding it, like the Cancer Research Fund, pharmaceutical companies fund the Cancer Research Fund, who then funds the study of their drug. So that all needs to be disclosed. So you and I can go, okay, well, that's a bit biased.
There's a vested interest here.
Exactly, and Professor Rod Jackson absolutely has a vested interest because...
now tell us, who is he? And what does he do?
He's an epidemiologist at Auckland University, and he's currently one of the professors there at the university that are undertaking studies for what is called the poly pill, which is going to help people with heart disease. Now, that is funded partially by the manufacturer and supplier of the drug he's studying.
Oh, okay. Oh,
and one of its competitors is vitamin E, because people take vitamin E to help ward off heart disease, and also once you've got heart disease, to help with heart disease.
Okay.
So he's knocking out his competitor for his drug company that's funding his research. That's how we see it.
All right. Now, Professor Jackson, you said he was studying, what was it again? Something or other.
Epidemiology.
Oh, epidemiology.
How he explained that in the program is he basically takes one group and compares them to another group to make conclusions.
Oh, right.
Now, that, strictly speaking, that's not a science.
No, and also, I mean, it's not, I mean, we all do research too, don't we? And you can't base it on just two groups. I mean, the findings from that, you have to compare with several other research is not that simple, actually.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I mean,
and I don't think you can even compare it. Sorry, Lily. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, go.
I was just going to say, I don't think you can even compare it from one group to another.
Yeah, that's
because as we know, they can set the study up to prove whatever they like. Yeah.
You have to cross it all over the place and have several different studies. And what's this polycell? Polycell is a new drug, is it?
Polypill, yeah. It's not on the market yet.
How do you spell it? P-O-L-Y?
P-O-L-Y-P-I-L-L.
P-I-L-L.
Yeah.
Just to warn the people out there. Okay. Well, it does look fishy, doesn't it? And he's here at Auckland University.
Yeah, he's a professor at Auckland University. You shudder to think the level of education that's coming out of that university in the medical and scientific department.
It's in every department, I'm afraid. Yeah, no, I mean, some of the stuff I've read recently, what they call masters and things, I shudder. Anyway, let's go on. Now,
Professor Jackson, by the way, is the person that says that butter is one of the most poisonous foods that we could consume, which has been disproved, quite some time ago.
Was he arguing for margarine?
No, he was right. Yes, he was against the whole dairy industry, actually.
Oh, right, yeah. And then somebody else came back. I remember all of that. Then somebody else came back with studies that said that the makeup of margarine is one something away from plastic. Is that
one molecule away from plastic?
One molecule away from plastic. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. The other aspect of that too is that margarine, to whip it from an oil form to the buttery form that it has, they use trans fatty acids, and trans fatty acids now it's the new thing in science that's worse than high cholesterol, it's worse than fat itself and what have you, and that's what the real danger is. It's not the fat that's the danger, it's the trans fat.
My. Oh, interesting, eh? And I mean, for the ordinary person listening, I mean, if a professor tells you something, why would you doubt it? Why would you doubt it?
Well, you would doubt it because we know that 20% of scientists are committing fraud. I mean, that's a bona fide study that was reported in the most prestigious science magazine in the world. So, that it's kind of like time to wake up and realise that our medical fraternity, they are the third largest killer in this country. You are more likely to die in the hands of your doctor than you are in a car accident. And it's just really, it's time for us to actually wake up and smell the roses, I think, and at the very least question and ask for a second opinion, even a third opinion, at the very least.
Is Professor Jackson in the medical department? Or is he
he's not a practicing GP. It was